Good evening, everybody. This is the 27th of January, and this is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. I am the educated hillbilly, and no, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. I am coming at you live from Tunnel Hills, where we are dedicated to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, I have with me tonight an honored guest that I'm going to let him introduce himself before I talk a little bit about what is heavy on my mind since all day yesterday, and then we'll come back after I do that and let my honored guest give us some points too. All right, take it away there, William.
Hello, everybody. My name is William Compton. I am a public school teacher in Warren County. I'm a city commissioner, and I'm actually running for Congress here in Kentucky's second congressional district. And I'm happy to be here with Spencer.
And we've all had quite a week, and so it's really given me a lot of pause for thought, deep reflection. And I really had to ask myself, apparently I have a serious addiction. No, it's not something fun and wasteful like gambling. I watched that alienate my dear dad from some of his loved ones. No, it's not narcotics. That would keep me from having money to spend on my real addiction. I'm addicted to fascism in its most sexy and seductive form, buying basic, bombastic balderdash from a bald billionaire that is balls deep in paying the king's ransom to Benito Don Dementia. I love the laziness Alexa affords me. I can stand outside my yard and write a diatribe to my teen, telling her to get outside and do her chores, and immediately 5 speakers will shout my screed to her without me having to walk inside. I can have Alexa remind me of 5 tasks throughout the day so that I can deny I have dementia. I can shout at intruders on my Ring camera when it is not being used by ICE to track my neighbors with the clear permission of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos bought MGM Studios and immediately hoarded out to make a whore look like a Vestal Virgin of a first lady, and the oligarchs Tim Cook, Andy Jassy, Lisa Sue, Eric Yuan, and Queen Rania of Jordan all gathered to see how much pleasure it gave Jeff Bezos to be the new benefactor of the United States of fascism. I know Amazon has gone deep throat for fascism, and yet I cannot break my addiction to this fascist oligarch and his promise that I can buy anything, anytime I want. I can listen to music from one source. I can buy books from one source. I can get my ubiquitous spying device from one source to spy on myself and my neighbors. And I can prime myself for the monopoly of fascism. Does Jeff Bezos tell Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend, Melania Trump, that her anti-bullying campaign has lost its shtick during the first presidential term of Dementia Don? And we all see that she does not care one iota about the abused kids of the Epstein files, no matter how many millions Jeff Bezos spent trying to make Jeff Epstein's sloppy seconds look like a saint. America knows she is just a trashy model who wore next to nothing on her flight on the Lolita Express when Epstein took her infamous lewd photograph. America knows she's no saint, and she immigrated here in a manner that would have had her deported today if she had more melanin in her skin. But I digress. I am addicted to fascism, as presented to me in the form of the small business devouring monopoly, the Jeff Bezos empire. I know this monopoly is funding our grifter in chief, and yet I use Amazon on a daily basis, multiple times a day. Last year, along with many of you, I fought a 2-week battle with fascism and won a victory. In a rage over my payments to Disney, Hulu, and ABC, all being used to enrich Disney ABC, in a huff, I canceled my Disney Plus subscription. I was enraged that the First Amendment and Jimmy Kimmel were betrayed by the fascists of the ABC Disney Corporation. I still have not renewed my subscription, even though Kimmel is back on air, and I miss watching Baby Yoda on Star Wars Universe there on Disney Plus. Yet here I am, unable to quit sucking up to and sucking on that sweet teat of Jeff Bezos's monopoly, even though I profess to love mom and pop businesses. So, will I just acquiesce and obey in advance as a fascist regime kills innocent Americans in the streets? I talk a lot about resisting fascism, and yet I cannot stop my addiction to it. That is how the evil empire wins and snuffs out the freedom we all profess to love. Do I want to live free, or do I want to get free shipping from Amazon Prime? Now, let me go order my doomsday prepper stash of food and supplies. Then I will get back to you, freedom, mom, and apple pie. I hear there's a big sale on protest whistles on Amazon Prime this week, and I need to hand out those out to anyone heading out to protest the murders in Minneapolis, so they can warn other protesters that ICE is ready to bash heads and knock women to the ground. Ordering online whistles on the cheap are my contributions to the fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right, Jeff Bezos? Now, let's take a little break to honor a real hero who actually honored veterans as heroes. If you'll bear with me, this man bears remembering.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render them our honor and our gratitude.
So the last time that I played that here on this channel, unfortunately, I started crying and sobbing and didn't realize I'd accidentally cut off the microphone and I'd cut off the camera. I sat there and I watched that man, an ICU nurse, and I know that I served with men and women just like him in the intensive care unit in Fort Harrison, Montana, during the COVID outbreak, when so many vets were dying from COVID and other illnesses. I watched nurses like that take care of patients, but never once did we see a nurse make a certificate up and have a ceremony specifically like that for a veteran. That's a man who truly cared and had a heart of gold. He didn't have the fascist heart. He had a heart of compassion. I know that empathy and compassion are bad words in our self-centered fascist society. That doesn't help you stop your addiction to fascism. So I'd also like to note that, in addition, we found out that Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino has finally been demoted and sent to El Centro to retire soon. He's still working, didn't lose his job. This is after he told all ICE agents to shoot any U.S. citizen holding a firearm, which is in direct conflict with the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. It is also after he said that the 7 agents who beat down and executed Alex Preddy were the victims of that day, of that execution incident. Goodbye, goon. Alex Preddy was the best of us. But do I care enough about his legacy and honor to wean myself of my addiction to fascist oligarchy shiny products? I saw my boycott Disney Plus really work. Now, if we quit buying and using products of fascists and fascist facilitators, this is direct action. This is the only direct action that the oligarchs of our system care about. They love their pocketbooks more than they love U.S. nurses that protect women being beaten and abused in public by the agents of Dementia Dawn. They love money way more than they care about a mom being shot in the head and upper torso multiple times in the name of Dementia Dawn. If we don't hit their pocketbooks, they will never leverage Sleepy Dawn to quit his abuse of Americans and their rights as outlined in the Bill of Rights. I need an intervention. I am an addict. Are you? Now, that video of Alex Preddy dressed in hospital scrubs as he paid tribute to the World War II veteran in 2024 went viral on social media after the 37-year-old nurse was fatally shot by immigration goons Saturday outside of Minneapolis donut shop. Mac Randolph, Terrence's son, that was the veteran's name, Terrence, said he reposted the 55-second clip as a personal tribute to Preddy, whose killing prompted outrage by local and state officials, as well as some members of Congress. On Monday, medical staff at the Minneapolis Veterans Hospital held a similar tribute for Preddy this time. Hopefully you can find that video. Staff lined the hospital hallways to pay their silent respects in what is known as an honor walk. According to hospital staff, every time a veteran passes away in the hospital, this is how we say goodbye. Staff from all departments lined the halls to honor the bravest among us, the veterans who served this country, said Hamida M. Oya, a VA medical worker. She posted to social media. I'm reading this now off the AP. Mac Randolph said he shared the 2024 hospital video of Preddy honoring his father because of the compassion he demonstrated. He was my dad's ICU nurse. He read my dad's final salute at the VA after he passed away. Never wanted to share this video, but his speech is very on point. Randolph wrote on Facebook. After the shooting, some federal officials characterized Preddy as an armed instigator looking to harm federal officers. Okay, now everyone, this is the end or near the end of dry January, where many folks give up alcohol for the month. I need an intervention. Well, I don't know if I need a priest to help me out, if I need, family and friends to come in and help me unplug every single Alexa in my house and take Amazon off of everything I love. But it's time for fascist-free February. It's past time. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep lining the pockets of these politicians and these fascist oligarchs? Or are we going to hit them where it hurts? And that's their pocketbook. They don't care how many of the best of us are being killed in the streets. They never have, and they never will. But if it affects their pocketbook, they will start talking to every single senator and congressman. They're not going to listen to us carrying nice little banners around. That doesn't bother them one iota. But the only thing that will stop them is if we stop buying their products. I am committed to a better environment. I'm committed to clean water, clean air, clean soil. And so when Tesla came out years ago, I thought, oh my God, here's a wonderful person. I know many people thought he was the fucking savior of all time. He developed a cult, Mr. Musk. And what did it turn out? Even after he got billions under the Obama administration for his research and development and to get into and buy Tesla and buy into Tesla, because it wasn't created by him. That's not his invention, regardless of what he will have you believe. But as soon as I found out that that guy was a fascist motherfucker, yeah, I will never even think about buying a Tesla. And I'm so glad that my electric vehicle is made by union workers at General Motors. Now, I'm going to allow us some time to think about this. I know I've gone off for a bit there, William. I'm sorry. But I'm going to give you the floor. Let's honor Coffee Cats is here. And she said that it's hard to avoid spending on their products, but it's probably very needed. You know, that's after I already asked him my cuck for Bezos. That's that's my question for myself. What do you think, Will? What's your take?
Well, I think it's copycat. That comment is so true. I was sitting here thinking they make it to where you have to rely on things like Amazon and make it hard to wean yourself away from them. I mean, we've seen them dismantling our postal service over the last couple decades, especially since Trump has been in office, just to try and privatize it for companies like Amazon. We've seen that, and that's the goal. They want to force us to use the companies and the products in our everyday life that gives them more money in their pockets. So it won't be easy with some things, but I know Amazon, I think in the last year, I've only bought two things from them, and it was out of necessity. And I'm going to do better, and I'm not going to buy anything from them at all. And that's including looking at their, I think it's Amazon movies, making sure that we're not watching, not falling for the clickbait on the new Fallout movie series and things of that nature. But it's going to take resolve from all of us to stop using those products to hurt that pocketbook. I was telling Spencer before the podcast started, if you want to see what companies are giving to what politicians, download an app. It is free. It is called Good Unite Us. You can search a company, you can search the politician, and it is a wealth of knowledge. For example, I'm running in the 2nd Congressional District to unseat Brett Guthrie. If you look up on there, you will see that Disney's gave him money. You will see that Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, the Houchins Industry, all of those companies gave him funds. And what is he doing right now? Standing silent is people are getting executed in the streets.
So
So,
I just noted something about that. Of course, anybody that's my friend knows that I'm like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when it comes to Maker's Mark because they're a very, very well liberal company. But they actually can't make any contributions themselves. It's Suntory Bean that owns Maker's Mark. Suntory is a Japanese company. So Suntory bought out Jim Beam, and then they bought out Maker's Mark. So it's Suntory, that Japanese company, that is trying to stay in with the fascists here, not get pushed out. I see that. Yeah.
yeah. And so we all have to do it together. And like Spencer said, it's going to hurt at the pocketbook. That's how we get the most immediate response now, hurting them at the pocketbook. But I will say this every day. Let's hurt them at the pocketbook now. But in the midterm elections, I know Kentucky's primary is May 19th. We have elections starting March 3rd. And then in the general election in November, getting them out of power to where we no longer have people like Brett Guthrie who support this fascism we're seeing across the United States. And that's more of a long term, but that's where we need to go. Stop using their products, vote them out, and elect good people who will stand up to this.
But we won't be able to vote them out if these oligarchs still have so much money to pump into these administrations. So
exactly.
As I talked about previously, and I think Citizens United, that's what got us into this situation. If it wasn't for Citizens United, we would not have all of these folks having their pockets lined with corporate money. Corporations are not people. I don't care what the Supreme Court says, right? So thank you, Jason, Nicoya, Repeal Citizens United. We got someone on here scene trolling us, Phantom Planet, we call it Phantom Menace, is blessing this whole regime and ICE, and then saying deport Ben Smith, who said fuck Trump, ICE, and the fascists. But also, I'll bring you on up here, Jason. Repeal Citizens United. Yeah. So, what do you think would be what will we have to do to get fascist-free February to take off and get off the ground? What do you and I need to do to get the word out?
Spread it everywhere we can and have anyone watching and listening to spread it everywhere. If we can all just tell every day, just 5 new people every day, then it's going to explode. And just think about the impact we had when we boycotted Disney and all of that with Jimmy Kimmel. And the amount of damage you can do so quick. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And that's where their true allegiance lies, is their pocketbooks. So let's hit them hard. Let's go for that strike.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's see. Steve here says, I say, no, you're not. I confess because I'd be admitting I am too when I, asked if I'm a cuck for Bezos. We may have to learn to do without. Boy, and is that something Americans like to do? Man, that's such a good point. Agreed. Corporations should lose their rights. Only individuals should be able to own homes. Yeah. Well, that's something that we didn't even bring up, right? What's the name of that corporation? Yeah. Is it Blackstone? I think that.
I cannot think of the name of that, but that's right. Only individuals should be able to own homes. We should not be allowing corporations to buy them up. Yeah. That is part of the reason we're seeing this issue with affordable housing, is because these corporations are taking up these houses that are for sale.
Is Kentucky considering doing something about that, in the state legislature or no?
No, our state legislature will not. Again, we're super duper majority state legislature GOP. And all they are worried about right now, they're worried about uh, making appointments to the bigger cities in the state, making it not by a vote, or his school boards making it not by a vote, making it appointments, which takes away the voters' right to choose their school board members for the bigger parts of the state. And then they're still worried about DEI, and they're worried about drag bills. That's what they're worried about.
So again, that's all they talk about. When I was at Fancy Farm with some other good friends, that lefties, only one Democrat there. That was Drew Williams. We've had him on here before. God, I hope that guy gets elected. But all the Republicans could do was tear each other down over who was more DEI, more diverse, equitable, inclusive than the other, and who was more against immigrants than the other. Oh, you hired immigrants before. Oh, you had a diversity, equity, inclusion policy in your company. You're horrible. It's like, man. And then, have you seen the attack ad that Massey's running right now against his?
I have not. All I'm seeing is Nate Morris's attack ads.
Yeah, so Massey just unleashed, and maybe it's because you're in the market down there in Bowling Green. I'm up here in Louisville market, Northern Kentucky reach. Massey has unleashed an ad against the Trump appointed person who's primarying him, right? Mm-hmm. And he's asking if Kentucky wants to go back to the Harris agenda and the pro-trans agenda. It's like, Massey, just when I thought, hey, maybe I could tolerate your stuff. Then he has to go and play from the right-wing playbook.
Yeah.
Like they're just going to try to say right-wing each other,
Yeah.
Man.
And to that comment with Coffee Cat you have on the screen right there, especially the get the money out of politics. This is public record, but go on to FEC, the Federal Election Commission, and look up your politician, your senators, your representatives, everybody. See where their money's coming from. Because, for example, Brett Guthrie, he only gets 1% of his funds from small donor people. Most of them are probably not in the district as well. 25% come from his family-owned business. The rest of it comes from corporate PACs, super PACs, dark money lobbyist organizations. That's who we have representing the 2nd Congressional District.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's eye-opening seeing. And it explains their voting record on why they're voting the way they are, because they're not voting for us. They're voting for those corporations so they could have everything they need to keep getting record-breaking profits.
So I don't know if you saw their Coffee Cat first said, hey, a leopard does not change its spots. Thinking when we're talking about Massey. If we can't get a Democrat into his spot, I don't want to lose him to someone that is handpicked by Trump. At least want one person on there who is out to help those girls who were traumatized and abused by the Epstein oligarchs. So hey, that's all I can say there. Now,
and I will say to that real quick. Oh
yeah,
I was going to say real quick. I had thought he was changing because his wife passed away, and I know that.
Yeah, I was wondering
something like that. And so I know something like that can drastically change your viewpoint on life. Mm-hmm. And so I was hoping that he looked at life differently and had to change.
Yeah, and it could be just he is a hardcore libertarian. Doesn't believe in taxes being taken for anything. Well, sorry, I don't want private roads. I want private roads. I want public school. I don't want private roads. I want public roads. I want public schools. I don't want private schools that no one can get into if they're poor, and that's the way it is. And if you're a minority, I don't want them. I want public schools for all. And that's just not what the libertarian philosophy believes in. They believe it's the survival of the fittest, and that if you're rich, you're the fittest. Not that had anything to do with your brain. But again, yeah, I think that maybe it is what happened though. Maybe his wife dying is what was able to convince him to at least, fight for those young girls. And he is a dad.
Yeah. Ben Smith, that comment is 100% correct. That's why I advocate for living wages. Because if you're going to make record-breaking profits, why are we not paying our workers that are helping you get that record-breaking profit?
And if you don't mind, so again, my favorite company in Kentucky, in my opinion, should be an example for all. Even though they're owned by Suntory Bean, Maker's Mark, way out there in Loretta. Have you been out there yet? Is that your district? Is that your future district?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That city does not sound familiar. I think that's more for
Loretto, New Haven, Kentucky.
New Haven is. I think Loretta is just over the line into the 4th district, because that county is split in half.
Well, they what they do is they pay all their full-time employees $30 an hour on up to $34 an hour. Their bartenders get $34 an hour. Folks serving you the food, the folks giving you their tour guide either get from 30 to 34 an hour and full benefits. So was out there with a colleague who he used to teach out, in that one of those counties. He's now teaching with me at JCPS, but one of his adult, students is now an adult and went off, graduated college at MTSU with a business degree. She came back, thought, I'm just gonna have a temporary job as a waitress there at their restaurant, in Star Hill. She's like, no, I'm not planning on doing waitressing forever, but I'm gonna stay in this company forever. She talked about the $30 an hour, full benefits. She adopted a child and got months of maternity leave paid.
That's awesome.
So you go out there, they've got a free place for me to plug in my electric car so I can drive out there and don't run out of electric and get back home, on their dime. They've got all the golf carts that they have on the property to run personnel around have a solar panel on top. They're driven by solar panels. They're doing regenerative farming. So they're taking, capturing the pollutants in the air and, sequestering it in the soil, just doing all kinds of stuff. If you eat there, you're eating food that was either grown on the property or within 30 miles. So if that company can do it, even though they're under the control of Suntory Bean, why can't other millionaires pay their people at least $30 an hour? You go out there and buy a meal. Yep, that's it. You said it. You go out there you go out there and buy a meal. The price you see on the menu includes gratuity. They do that so they can have that package for them, right? Well, we say it's about this, right? But they're still millionaires, and their kids are going to be millionaires, and their grandkids. About that, I'm like, I actually got to talk to Bill Samuels. I ended a tour. He was giving a tour. Is this 80-some-year-old man still giving tours to people, right? Just regular people. And I went up to him like, Bill, I love what you're doing with, this company. Your bourbon, to me, is the best, and yet it's priced to where I don't have to be rich to enjoy it. But the main thing, you're treating the earth with honor, love, and respect. You are honoring all of your employees and treating them like gold. And you go out there, man, talk to them, ask them about their packages. They'll tell you how great they're treated. So it can still be about this. You can still be a millionaire. What more do you need than $1 million for life?
It's not only the greed. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. It's not only the greed; it is the fact that they think if someone else gets more money, that they're going to price them out and they'll start losing money. That is their fear.
Yeah.
And
Now,
that's why they keep thinking if I keep more money, that's not going to happen.
but man, their employees are so happy. So happy. Go out there, please, and just see how happy they are. Your service at your table, they're going to have everything you need before you can even think of it. That's how awesome they are out there. Hey, let's look at some more comments. Tom, before we go, Tom said, yeah, the schools. So talking about public schools, one last thing about Maker Smart. I noticed that behind the counter, after I talked to Bill, there was a bottle in the gift shop that had his, a picture of him on it. I'm like, hey, what is that? Which special recipe is that? If I buy that, I'm like, no, it's not a special recipe. It's a regular recipe. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then what's the significance of his picture? He goes, oh, all the family members have their picture there on their bottles. If you buy it, then that's going to go to their special program. So it's like that is going, if you buy that bottle, that's going to Bill's Women of Color Scholarship at Bellarmine University. And I was getting my master's there at the time. I'm like, oh, yeah. I can't say enough. You can be a millionaire. You can help people out. He's saying, yeah, the school brought me back to that too. Let's look. Tom says, voucher thing is a hornswoggle, right?
Yep, exactly.
Can you talk real quick about that so we can look at the other comments, but tell people that aren't teachers like you and me what that means for their children?
So the whole idea behind it is essentially your tax dollars follow your child to the schools that they choose to go to. And what that's doing is that's taking funds from already underfunded public schools, putting it to private schools. And these private schools don't even have to allow these students into their buildings. They can pick and choose. So if you have a student with a disability, if you have a student who's a student of color, or things of that nature, they can deny them. And it's just a way that they're trying to bring segregation back to the schools.
Yes. And I saw that when I lived in Montana. I was invited to a dinner for hunters, and there was a guy running for Congress at the time, and then since then he's been elected to be the governor of Montana. But he was right wing, He got rich in, I think, Pennsylvania or somewhere back east, back in the 90s, made something, some kind of software, sold it, became a millionaire. Went out to Montana and bought a, huge piece of property, and then started wanting to live like an oligarch out there. So anyway, someone, introduced me to him. I shook his hand. I'm like, I could just tell what kind of person he was, like, yeah, no. But like, yeah, he's a great philanthropist. He owns, nonprofit school. I'm like, yeah, his nonprofit school, Christian school, on their website. Someone else told me later when I talked about it, yeah, they don't have to allow kids with disabilities, like you said, or behavior problems at the school. I'm like, what? That couldn't be. That wouldn't be Christian. Like, yeah, look it up on their website. And sure enough, it said that we don't have the means to accommodate, disabilities and, behavior issues. I'm like, wow, you're a philanthropist, fucking millionaire, over, probably even billionaire. And this is your philosophy. That's vouchers for you. So that was while I was there, they got vouchers passed, and he got to suck all that taxpayers' money into his philanthropical private school. And nobody was allowed in there that didn't match their white Christian, mold. All right, let's see what else Ben Smith says. Oh, well, Tom said profits are wage theft. Well, Tom, the only disagreement I have is, again, Maker's Mark, they make a profit, but they pay their people more. I mean, a real living wage is $30 an hour, would you say? What do you think? Or is it even less? What do you think? We talked about
It depends. Yes, it depends on the area you live in. So there is a fantastic website. If you just Google MIT living wage calculator, you can look and see based on your circumstance, whether you're a
and we did
single,
that on a previous show.
married, yes, how many kids you have, and it bases it on if you work 40 hours a week, every week of the year with no vacations.
May I ask you
And
a favor?
here, yes,
Would you plug in New Haven while I'm going on looking at these other ones? Because I'm telling you, $30 an hour, I'm almost positive that's way more than we required to live in Loretto or New Haven.
so unfortunately, I only have my phone on me and I'm recording on it, so I
Okay.
can't go
Yeah.
off to something.
No, anybody look at it. I'm sure that $30 an hour is way more than you need to,
Oh, definitely.
you're going to be out there. I mean, dude, it's in the middle of God's country. Beautiful, beautiful, but it's rural.
I mean, for example, Bowling
I
Green,
get
Kentucky.
huh?
Well, I was going to say, for example, Bowling Green, Kentucky, for two parents with two kids, it's I think it's like $15 and some change is a living
Yeah,
wage just for
yeah,
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
yeah. So, I was talking to African American man that's behind the counter. I'm like, so how much does it cost you to live out here in Loretto? I know you guys are getting a good payback. He's like, oh no, I don't live in Loretto. I'm like, what? It's like, no, I drive in from Louisville. He drives all the way from Louisville out there to work at that amazing place. That's when profits are not wage theft. Is when you're treating your people so freaking good like that they'll drive that far. Heck, I drive 45 minutes a day. Um, you know, and that's just the way it is because I'm making decent living. Let's see what Ben said. School voucher programs funnel tax money for local schools who need it and the private schools who do not. Yep, that's what we were saying. That's right.
Exactly.
Ben Smith is absolutely right. Tom says. Yep, he absolutely is. All right. What is Mahosh is saying? Sounds like a stand-up woman and company. Yeah. So yeah, if we're talking about Maker's Mark, yeah, Maker's Mark, it is a stand-up company. That's all I can say, man. I look to examples of Kentucky as much as I can for instances of folks treating other folks with honor, decency, right? Helping them live life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you're making $30 to $34 an hour in this state, then you can live that life, liberty, pursuit of happiness on a daily. Copycats. The Japanese believe in giving back to their community. In Georgetown, Kentucky, Toyota contributed huge amounts to build up the community. Yeah. What do you have to say? You might know more about that than me. I actually joined the Navy in 1990 and left the state and then didn't come back until, a bit after retirement. But I know that Toyota was coming in when I left. My brothers actually worked there. My mom lived in Georgetown for a little bit. Her second husband, or third husband, actually. What do you notice about Toyota?
So I don't know much about that Toyota plant, to be honest. Uh, I've mainly focused on like Ford and the union-owned American companies, and
All right,
that's where my main focus is. Yeah, and we have a lot of those in my congressional district. I know the Toyota plant is in Georgetown. That is, again, I want to say the fourth congressional district. But
Yeah.
I will say, copycat, you are right. Japanese culture does believe a lot about giving back to your community. I saw a video the other day where people just randomly will get brooms and dustpans and will go out and start sweeping their sidewalks and their streets, cleaning it up, just normal everyday people. The students in the schools go out and they're the ones who do most of the cleaning in the schools. Uh, it's completely different culture as far as taking care of their communities.
And I know from my kith and kin in Eastern Kentucky that they've taken the hillbilly highway used to go, from Appalachia on up to Michigan, Detroit, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Now once that came in, and the Rust Belt became, something basically in Ohio, and Michigan, that filled a gap when Toyota came into Georgetown and folks started going from Eastern Kentucky over there for, good union jobs. All right, so before we close out here, let's take a little bit of a break. We'll read some of the banners if you want, can read some of them there, and we'll think about how to answer them. We'll take a little break here, okay? All right, so Mahosh says, I'm so lucky to be free, to be from a social democracy. Ah, man. Mahosh, do you have any time to give us a little bit of a spiel on what that means to you to be from a social democracy? That sounds, I think I know what you're talking about, and I know that I would have said before I would like to be like Finland and other Scandinavian countries that have social democracies. What does it? What do you think it means there, William?
I have my own guess. I don't want to put words in their mouth. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah. Well, for me, it means that, in a social democracy, from what I've seen and, talked about before, that's like Canada. You're going to have universal health care for all. That's going to be it's a given. Your tax rate is not going to go to only pay for something like, well, it won't go to pay for something like the Gestapo ICE. It's going to pay for health care for all. It's going to pay for public education. You're guaranteed that. Also in Finland, you work your tail off, that 30% tax rate is going to a savings account for the whole nation so that you can have a real, safe, secure retirement. Not this bullshit of our Social Security system where it was never supposed to be dipped into for anything else but the people who paid into it. And what did Bush do? He dipped into it to pay for the Gulf War, right? So it doesn't happen in a social democracy. You are guaranteed, you work hard. If you're not going to, in your elder years, live in poverty or live without medical care. And through your whole life, you'll have medical care. Another thing over there, you have the right. If you think that one of your neighbors, someone that you know in your community, is getting over on the system and they're not paying their fair share into the system, you can go down to your local courthouse and ask to see their tax records. So you will never have a Donald Trump refusing to release his tax records. You will never have a Thomas Massey refusing to release his tax records. You'll never have a William Compton refusing to release his tax records as he runs for office. You'll never have a Spencer Keck refusing to release his tax records as he runs for public office. That is public domain. You are expected to work hard, pay your taxes, and that tax rate is going to be there for you in your retirement years. And you'll have an actual retirement. And from people I've talked to that lived over there, everyone over there has their home that they live in, on a day-to-day, and they have their vacation home. All in Finland. They had two. So that is, I think that's what social democracy means from what I've seen, right? All right, so let's go look at some more so we can close it out. I know we've been here a bit. Sorry to keep you so long, William. All right, so Maharsh said, lucky to live in a social democracy. Ben Smith said, maybe if they had to live on the wages they pay their employees, things might change. But they see people as
Yep.
expendable resources rather than actual humans. And that's exactly what we're talking about when I talk about my addiction to fascism. You know, if I'm not buying from either a mom and pop joint or a company, honestly, like Maker's Mark, that I know rewards its people just as much as it rewards my taste buds, I got to quit. And so Amazon is, to me, that's, yeah, they've jumped the tracks and they're now full fascist. What do you think?
I agree.
And Tom says, perhaps I should rephrase that. Excess profits are wage theft.
I like
Yes,
that. Yeah.
absolutely. I've been listening to Prof G more now than almost anybody, and he said once you make over a million, I think millions is cut off mark. It needs to be taxed at 40% across the board. He said that it's the folks who make between 300,000 to up to a million that are actually carrying the burden of our nation and that are overtaxed. He's also, William, we might have to talk about this. He's calling for people 30 and under not to pay taxes. He's saying that we are debilitating our young folks. We're not making it possible for them to buy a house, to get a family comfortably started. And, tax the millionaires more than we are at all, tax corporations, and let folks 30 and under go tax free for federal taxes. Not you say, hey, something to think
Well,
about, you know. Um,
I would also argue with that our senior citizens too. We need to.
well, yeah, but we definitely want to means test the senior citizens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Are we gonna allow Rupert Murdoch to go tax free just because he's a senior citizen? Hopefully not.
Well, I'm saying like on property taxes and things of that
Yeah,
nature.
yeah. Well, property taxes for sure, but I mean federal taxes. We
Yeah.
should. Your income taxes. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what Mahash is saying. Though Netanyahu has essentially made it a mixed economy, leaning toward neoliberalism. Okay. Then profits are wage theft while employees face poverty. Yes. If your employees are in poverty, then absolutely, that's the prime example. Your profits are wage theft. So you look at companies where everybody that works at your store or your plant has to also be on food stamps, then you're involved in
There's
wage
an
theft.
issue. Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
All right. So Mahash, $30 an hour is excellent. Yeah, isn't it? Now, I think we need to raise the minimum wage. I don't think it could be raised to 30. Right? What do you think? 15, 12.50? What do we need to go to at least get, some people, so people don't feel like they're losers every day they go to a job? What wage should we raise our national tax to? I'm sorry, not tax, sorry, national wage.
15, 16, or around there is a lot of the consensus. Although we're starting to see people now calling for 20 because
Yeah,
of the rising prices.
yeah. I think shooting for 20 would be extremely tough. If you shoot for 15 and get 12.50, that's way better than 7.25. Maybe in Mississippi you could live on 12.50. I don't know, some of those poverty states. Hopefully we get 15. But 20, that's going to be tough. But there's 7.25, but we're long overdue. And
Yeah.
Mahash, I have to totally agree with Mahash here. Collectivism is where it's at. But again, if you're involved in collectivism, you have empathy. And according to Elon Musk, empathy is the downfall of Western civilization. So until we get rid of these fascists who believe that, we're screwed.
And and what's hilarious to me about hearing that is going through my rural school that I now teach at in eighth grade. All I remember from my eighth grade science class the most Republican man I've ever met in the world. And all I remember was him, football coach at the time as well, talking to us about empathy. That's the only thing I remember from my eighth grade science class. And
That's
now it's a bad word. It it's crazy to me.
so crazy. It's ludicrous. That's what it is. I want to take a little break here shortly. You probably heard today someone else got shot now by ICE in Arizona, but there are no witnesses, so it must have been a just shoot. Before that, yesterday we had this happen. So we'll take a little pause, trying to cut us. I meant to cut us off at 30 minutes, but let's try to make it to the hour. Here's something else that happened.
Medic.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
So that was still, Minneapolis. So that happened. I'm losing track now of, day and time since yesterday and today. That happened. And then now there's a shooting before we went on air in Arizona. Someone's, it looks like, critically shot. Yeah. So, all right, let's get through our comments here and then caller. So collectivism, what do you think?
No, I agree. It's great. And that's how we're going to defeat this regime, is that collectivism.
Long John says hi from the United Kingdom. Long John, I love that name. Long John Silver's was my favorite restaurant when I was a kid. still my favorite, only fast food fave. Tom says, I remember some people talking about the Toyota plant in the mid 1980s, bitching that Martha Lane Collins was the best governor Toyota ever bought. Yeah, I like that. And Tom says, I was not a fan of that comment. Yeah. Martha Lane Collins was an absolute amazing politician, and she followed a great governor and brought more greatness to Kentucky. I remember my dad was he's a union pipe fitter from the Eastern Kentucky Ashland local. He said that Toyota originally tried to not be union, because that wasn't a Japanese deal, but the United Auto Workers made sure that they were unionized, and I really appreciate that. So, so it ended up being nothing but a boom for our economy and for Kentucky, and like I say, it's not in our district, but hey, it's something to look at. I like looking all over the state for something to use in our area, especially now that we had the EV battery plant close, and just breaking my heart. Tom says, when I was at UPS circa 1990, a guy I knew there also worked at the Toyota plant in Georgetown. One of the main things he liked, that there were people whose jobs was to relieve line workers for probably for maybe breaks and things. What was the rest of that? Did I miss something? No, I assume for breaks. What do you think?
I would think breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, me so too, which is freaking awesome. All right, Mahosh says social democracy means a system where the state actively guarantees things like healthcare, education, housing, workers' rights, social safety nets. Yeah, I think we hit on most of that earlier, but yeah, right? Exactly. We could have that if we had the balls to give up fascism.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mahosh, for leading us where we need to go, while still allowing elections, civil rights, and a mixed, not fully socialist economy. Yeah, there's various gradations of socialism. Yeah, and that's a darn good point. What do you think? Tom says, yeah, oh, there you go. He continues, break, and the workers were glad to go play ping pong for a little bit to move around and change their movements. What do you think of that, Will?
That is actually really awesome. And it makes sense, because doing repetitive motions, going out and doing something that can just move around differently. It makes sense. And it's
Yeah,
fun. If you put a little fun into the workplace, then you're going to have happy workers. And you're going to get workers who are going to want to stay and are going to want to work for the company. That's
exactly.
awesome.
And to bring it back as local as I can get, that's what happened. My wife and I went out to Maker's Mark right in the holiday time frame, a few weekends ago. And I was doing my normal Q&A, of the gal who was serving us. She's like, yeah, tell me how they had a real Christmas party, huge swag buckets for them, gift buckets, and just, all paid for by Maker's Mark. And then in February, she and I don't know if it's everyone that works there or just certain sections are going to another um, February celebration of people that I think it was like the ones that worked, in the restaurant, hospitality, bartending, things like that arena, and they were going to get more swag, while they're there. Just treat give your people that benefit. I go out there with my service dog. Immediately the waitresses, actually two service dogs, one for my teenager and me. Each of them brought a bowl of water without asking. And
That's
they left
awesome.
the restaurant without giving us any trouble. Are these service dogs? What are they? No, do it. They have the water fountain outside if it's, the time where they have a water fountain for humans, and right below that, a water bowl fountain for the dogs. Just can't
That's
say
awesome.
enough about what yeah, you can be good and still make a profit, right? Um, the shift to today's market economy really only took off in the 80s and 90s with privatization and the US style neoliberal reforms. We still have a strong welfare state, important to maintain it. I don't know if Mahosh now, if he's talking about Israel or if he's talking about somewhere there in Scandinavia. Be interesting to know. But let's see. It says Scandinavia is excellent. Anyone who's struggling gets a government subsidized apartment and house. Not sure how this model would work in the States, given just how big it is. For smaller countries, it works very well. Paid maternity and paternity leave. That's cool, right? We can't even get maternity leave, not even mention paternity leave, is another strong
Yeah.
aspect. Time off, vacations to ensure high quality of life. I don't know if you ever watched that show, or actually it was a documentary that Moore did called Where to Invade Next. He went to all these different countries around the world, like, hey, where should we invade next so that we will take on some of their attributes? He went to France. That was one of the biggest things they have there was that paid maternity and paternity leave, and it's a significant amount of time. Just like I'm saying, Maker's Mark did. Italy, back to what Tom was talking about, they have 2-hour lunches. They have gourmet meals, for all their folks that stick around, don't go home for lunch. Again, just if you could be a company that really cares about your people. You don't have to be about, oh, how much can I keep from my employees. Most, and of course, universal health care, most important. Yeah, that's my non-starter right now. Can we at least get to that point? Yeah, at least. Yeah, I'll say, I think Mahosh was saying $15 an hour at least.
Yes. Yes.
Copycats, minimum wage should be whatever possible to live off of without great hardship. There you go. So we need to look
That
at.
is a true point. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the baseline? Now, we can't all expect to get what Seattle needs, in order to
Yes.
live off, or San Diego or
And
Washington or New York, but can at least look at what's a median in between Seattle, New York, San Diego, and Mississippi. What's that median? I think we're probably right in that median, and
yeah.
give us that at least for a minimum. What do you think? What are you going to push for?
Well, I'm gonna push for the $15 an hour. But I had someone the other day reach out to me and go, for living wage, how about instead of, or for minimum wage even, how about instead of making it one that's across the entire nation, make the law say whatever a living wage is for that state is what that minimum wage has to be. So that way it's different for each state.
That's real.
And
That's
it's not,
real deep thinking. Now, what if we did that? Because that sounds like freaking phenomenal, nuanced thinking. How would you, though, be sure that the state then and the oligarchs in the state wouldn't, not gerrymander it, but how would they not manipulate it downwards? How could you ensure that?
Oh, you would have to have a group of either both Democrats and Republicans or an independent transparency group that will go into each state to make sure they're not trying to undercut the numbers.
Right now, we don't have accurate employment numbers and unemployment numbers from our federal government because Trump doesn't like them, so he fired them, and only people that will give him fake numbers is what we have. So that would be like right. If we had what we used to have just a year ago, accurate numbers, that would be a real deal.
Yes, and that way people wouldn't know. Oh,
$15 an hour deal. And if we get back to where we really have control of our systems, then that's an awesome idea. Hey, Tom says it needs to be 20, but I recognize that's going to be a hard sell for the politics. Tom, I like agree, that. But I think that hey, like say out in Loretto, 30 is amazing. Forcing everybody to get it, tough. Some of your Eastern Kentucky areas, where all they have is a restaurant, a hospital, and a public school, that might be tough to say 20. Surely we could get even 15 in Eastern Kentucky, hopefully,
Oh, yeah.
So we're almost towards the end of our comments here. Ben says, when the U.S. was on the silver standard in 64, minimum age was $1.25. To those 5 quarters were 90% silver, or about an ounce. The value of an ounce of silver right now is over $100.
Oh, wow.
It's broken.
It is. You're right.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Jason Flay. The issue is I see that we have a populace that is less and less informed. Absolutely. That's fact. We don't have, one thing we need is the fairness doctrine to be reinstated to reduce the BS floating out there. Absolutely, please. The reason why the oligarchy class can exist is that for every reason-informed news story about why we need to rein in corporation that exists, there's 3 that states that to go after the oligarchs are some communist socialist plot, and it's anti-American to want workers to have a living wage. Could you and I have said that any better?
Exactly. That's perfectly said. Yeah.
Ben says he's got to go. He's going to eat some dinner. See you later, Spencer. Nice to meet you, William.
Nice to see you, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for interacting. Copycats, that's what I was meaning too, William. You can do independent financial audits to determine what wage we needed. Yeah, we've got to get back to, really having control of our government so we can have that, right? Jason Y again says the GSA rates differs per county, per state. I don't see what can be done with minimum wage. Also, minimum wage must be tied with the rate of inflation, so there isn't this constant fight to raise it and raise automatically. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
Let's get into what you're talking about, right? All right, man. That's been so far an amazing time. I did not mean to go an hour and almost 10 minutes so far, but I would really like Will to give you, hey, our takeaway. Let's start off. Can we get fascist-free February? Can we give up our, addiction to the monopolies and the corporations and the oligarchs that are funding this catastrophe? Good takeaway. While Will is gathering his final thoughts, I'd like you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Vote for me for Hardin County District 3 Magistrate in November. Right now, I don't have anybody primary against me. And I'll let Will talk about you hitting his like button, subscribing to his channel, and then what else do you got to say there, Will, before we finish it out?
Yeah, so is completely possible for us to have a fascist-free February. Is it going to be easy? No, but it's going to have to take all of us standing up and hitting them in their pocketbook to get them to pay attention and to get their sights on actually helping the people in this country. I appreciate you, Spencer, for having me on. I appreciate having these conversations and hearing from everybody. Again, I'm running for the second congressional district here in Kentucky. If you would like to follow my campaign, please go to williamcompton.com. That's the easiest place to find all of my socials and all of my contact information. And on here, if you look up William Compton, the number 4 KY 2024, you can like my page as well for any more information about the campaign as we do videos as well.
Again, just you know, a personal note, man, I love your backdrop there, and that Compton for Congress was in a perfect spot. This is awesome, y'all. I really appreciate the interaction. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our musings, even though we had the Phantom Menace out there trying to troll us. That was cool. You know, hey, if they're trolling, they're listening, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I will say, let's do this in remembrance of Alex Preddy, remembrance of my brother who lost his leg and hand in Afghanistan and then became one of the 22 a day that nurses like Alex Preddy were taken care of in the VA. You know, I can't say enough about those people. They took care of my dad. He died in the Lexington, Kentucky VA after he suffered his second bout of cancer. And yeah, it took him out, Agent Orange, from his service in Vietnam. It's just those caring nurses that really make or break your care at the VA. You know, I just, if you don't mind, one quick thing. I know we're going over time, but when my brother came back from Afghanistan, was medevaced back to the United States, medevac to Walter Reed. If you don't remember that period, that was in the early 2000s and about 2008, 2009. He had lost his leg and hand tragically and, you know, severely in Afghanistan, an IED blast. And I was worried to death because he was heading to Walter Reed, and they just made the national news about how, you know, horrible some of the conditions were there. So I get there, you know, I was a hospital corpsman, so I knew about medical care, medicine, nursing. You know, that was my job. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure these sons of bitches don't mistreat my brother. Well, what did I see? So that first night, brother came in. He was so hopped up on morphine, it was crazy, you know, because he had lost, like I said, leg right below the knee on the right. He had lost most of his left hand. He just had, what they ended up being able to do was make him have some pincers. And I think it was, they reattached some things, made it where his middle finger should have been, had his thumb mostly there. He had basically looked like a lobster pincher. But how did they get that? Well, they had to cut muscle and tissue from deep in his back and replace it over the stump of what had been blown off of his leg. So he had enough padding there to be able to have a prosthesis later. And then they had to put that tissue also over his hand to make up, you know, for those places. Now, man, he was in pain. Morphine delirium quite a bit of time. And this young, I believe he was a first lieutenant in the Army Nurse Corps, came in, and my brother just couldn't help but shell over himself. You know, and that was embarrassing, my brother, you know, and this male nurse was cleaning my brother's ass hour after hour with nothing but cheerful, delight. You know, and my brother was being taken away after quite a few hours of going in and out of whisked away for scrubbing down, because they had to scrub down all this area that had been blasted. As I told you, my youngest brother was with him at the time, said he looked like a charred brisket on one half of his body when he was in Afghanistan, after the blast. And they were cleaning that up. You would have constant scrubbings of the wound area to make sure that they got all the MRSA and other illnesses out of there. But they keep bringing it back. But my brother was being taken out of the room at one point, and the nurse said, "Hey, I probably won't be here when you get back, Mr. Keck, but I just want to let you know, I'll be seeing you here soon." And my brother was just like, "Thank you." And as he left, I'm just like, after seeing this guy, I say, wiping the excrement off of my brother's body for hours, pee, urine, everything. He just couldn't help it. Taking off his naked body, I'm just in ravaged body. I'm like, man, I just can't tell you how much I really appreciate your care, the way you're treating my brother. I don't know if I've got experience. I'm medical. I don't know, how much, what it would do to me to do this. He's like, this is my honor. This is an honor for me, sir. Don't thank me. It's my honor to be able to do this. And I cried, And so when I see Alex Preddy and the care that I know what it takes in an intensive care unit, you have only one, maybe two patients at the very most to take care of for a 12-hour shift usually as a nurse. And you're doing nothing but what I'm talking about. You're wiping excrement off of human bodies. You're putting tubes down noses and throats to suck out bile. You're feeding people through tubes. You're doing IVs. You're constantly monitoring, make sure they don't crash. If you've never been in medicine, you can't know. And if you've never had a family member in an intensive care unit. But to lose a man the way we just did, this oligarchy has got to fucking go. They are allowing this man and all the Democrats right now. And I don't know about you, how you feel, Will. I used to like Fetterman. I used to think he was a fucking cool dude who, would wear sweats at all times. Oh yeah, you're a fucking cool dude. You're not down with the establishment. No, he's down with the establishment. He voted last time to reopen the government instead of getting what we need for Americans. And right now he's already saying he's not going to vote the Democrats. He's going to fund ICE. Fuck you, Fetterman. Let's get him the fuck out of there. So any fucking corporate Democrat, you need to fucking go as well too, because you're just a fucking facilitator of fascists. And y'all, that's really, I don't know how much more I can say. Thanks, copycats. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, those nurses they're the best of us. So they have killed the best of us twice now. We'll find out what happened in Arizona. We'll see what happened to that person who had their hand blown off. Man, I never saw this coming 3 years ago, but here we are. Anything I'd add before I sign out?
I don't think so. I think you've done a great job.
All right, y'all. Well, Kentucky, united we stand and divided we fall. We are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. We love our neighbors as ourselves in Kentucky. Bless our corazón. And in Spanish, that means heart. Bless our heart. Y'all, I hope that you are blessed, that you're warm, and that you're checking on your neighbors. If you have a chance, helping them out. I know my niece ran over and did that for 3 of my neighbors today, helped them dig their way out of this ice. let's take care of each other.